Hey guys, I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com, and today in the shop we have this EcoBoost powered 2014 F-150 in for a well-rounded build but with a budget in mind. Now we took care of a small suspension lift, added some big lighting upgrades, a little bit more power, and took care of a few odds and ends. So hang out with me as I walk you through this build. Starting off this build with one of the most common modifications most truck owners do to their ride at one point or another, and that is a lift. Now there's a number of reasons why most truck owners do a lift at some time, whether it be function or form related, or maybe even a combination of both, but in a nutshell, it's gonna look cool, it's gonna give you a little bit more ground clearance, and it's gonna make way for a bigger tire. When assembling our mod list for this build, we didn't want to go too crazy with the lift, but we did want to keep things budget-minded. So we settled in on the Zone Offroad 2-inch full suspension lift kit. Now Zone Offroad, they're a great company. They make everything from small leveling kits to full-blown 8-inch suspension lifts and everything in between. Now they also make some really quality stuff, but for reasonable prices. Case in point, this lift kit cost us just north of 200 bucks, and it even included some shocks. Now, full disclosure, guys, this thing actually came to us with a set of 34s, which absolutely rubbed like crazy. However, I'm happy to report with the Zone lift installed, it doesn't rub anymore. Now, Zone actually recommends running a 33-inch tire with this particular lift kit. We threw a set on, it looked great. However, it was a tad on the small side for my liking. With those 34s installed, we didn't encounter any rubbing lock to lock. We even threw a set of 35s that we had laying around on the truck, and we're happy to report that those did not rub either. Both the 34s and 35s had a similar offset to stock. Ultimately, guys, I think the 34s just looked a little better. The 33s were a tad on the small side. 35s were a little big for this particular lift, so we landed on the 34s. And by raising the truck an even 2 inches in all four corners, it's still maintaining the slightest bit of rake, meaning the rear is a little taller than the front. Some of you guys might be into that look. I think it looks pretty cool. But if you're more into the leveled look, well then you can probably play with the aluminum rear blocks, maybe eliminate them from the equation, or just go with a straight up leveling kit on the site, probably even save yourself some money in the process. Breaking down some of the individual components of the Zone kit, guys, you're gonna find a 2-inch strut spacer here for the front. This is gonna be the most common way to get the front of the truck up in the air a little higher, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. Any higher than that, you start messing with drop knuckles and aftermarket cross members, and that's when the prices really start to skyrocket. One thing that is unique to the Zone kit up front here is what they use with their strut spacer. They use a synthetic resin known as polyphthalimide in place of aluminum or steel. Now I like this because A, it's never going to corrode, and B, it's also actually going to help dampen any extra noise, vibration, or harshness, whether you're going over some rough terrain, off the road, bumpy roads, whatever. As for the rear, Zone throws in 2-inch aluminum blocks to be used in conjunction with your factory blocks, along with longer U-bolts to handle this new setup. They also give you the option of including their hydro or nitro shocks, or no shocks at all, so you can really tailor this setup to your needs. We ended up going with their hydraulic options for the simple fact that they're gonna ride a little bit better or smoother compared to the nitro options, and they're also a little easier on the wallet, which kind of falls in line with our budget build. As you can see, we were also very busy with the front of the truck here as well, but first let's start with Barricade's Bull Bar in gloss black. Now, if bull bars are your thing, I think you're really gonna like this option, and here's why. For starters, it's super affordable at just north of 100 bucks for the black option here. If you're in a little bit more flash, they do offer a fully polished stainless version. It'll set you back a little bit more. Now this thing's gonna offer some minor protection for the front end here, whether you're off-road or just battling the grocery store parking lot. Plus it looks really cool, and there's nothing crazy when it comes time for the install. Now, one of my favorite things about the Barricade Bull Bar, besides looking really cool, are these two little mounting points here that you can use pretty much for whatever you want, but they're a perfect spot to mount auxiliary lighting, whether it be fog lights, spotlights, you name it, you can probably throw it there. Now, speaking of lighting, you can see we were very busy with that as well. We installed Raxiom's 21.5-inch and 50-inch double row LED light bar on this particular build. Now the factory halogen headlights on this thing pretty much suck, so installing a bar, or bars in our case here, is really gonna come in handy for a number of different reasons. Whether you're off-road on some dark trails, on the beach at night, camping, on the work site, whatever, this thing will definitely help us out. Now, even though the Barricade seems like a perfectly good option to mount the smaller Raxiom, we actually didn't do it that way because the brackets that are included with the Raxiom light bar don't line up with the brackets on the Barricade Bull Bar here. We would have had to get a little custom with that. Instead, we threw it in the grill. Why? Because it looks so damn good in there. It's a very popular spot to mount this particular size light bar with this particular truck. Again, because it blends seamlessly and it looks very, very good. Now, this is also going to leave the Barricade open to other options in the future if we should need it. Not that you're ever gonna need other options, because we also installed the big boy. That's right, we have the 50-inch Raxiom LED light bar on the roof here, which is really the only place you're ever gonna be able to mount something this big. Now, in order to get this thing mounted to your rig properly, you are gonna have to spring for the extra mounts. It's gonna be a couple $100 extra here, depending on what option you go with. We chose the Raxiom options that does have you drilling into the roof here of your F-150. Personally, I prefer the other mounting options, which have you drilling into the door jambs. Personally, I think that's a little bit more discreet, but either way, again, if you do go with the Raxiom here, just make sure to take your time and use a little silicone around the holes just to prevent any water from entering the mounting location. Both bars do feature a combination of spot and flood lighting, illuminating everything and anything in your way. But because of this, just use your head, guys. Don't use these bars in heavy traffic, as they no doubt will blind oncoming drivers. Keeping in line with our budget build, we also installed the Tonno Pro TonnoFold cover. Now, like those lift kits, a tonneau cover is one of those things many truck owners consider at one point or another for a few different reasons, but mainly to keep your stuff, your cargo, safe from the elements and from prying eyes, and also help keep your stuff from blowing out while on the road. And like that lift kit I mentioned earlier, there's gonna be a ton of options when choosing the right tonneau cover for your rig. You got folding options, roll-up options, hinged options, snapped options, you name it, there's a lot to choose from depending on what you're looking for. As you can probably gather from the name, the TonnoFold is a folding cover, tri-fold to be exact, which I really like because it's going to allow you to quickly and easily gain access to your bed without having to totally remove the cover in the process. Just simply fold it up, secure it with the straps here, and you should be good to go. Nothing really too crazy when it comes to the build of this thing. Durable aluminum frame, it's been powder coated, 24-ounce marine grade vinyl material, and backed by a lifetime warranty. Now, would a hard cover provide some extra security for us in our truck? Sure, absolutely. But the TonnoFold was a nice option because it served a purpose, but it didn't totally blow apart our budget in the process. In fact, at the $200 to $300 price point, this thing is going to be one of the most affordable options on the site currently for our short bed. Now, we didn't totally neglect the interior of this build either. Instead, we installed a couple small things that might not be all that cool per se, but they're convenient and more importantly, they serve a purpose. First up, we did Husky's under-seat storage system here in this F-150. Now, if you're like me and have a small touch of OCD about keeping your truck clean and clutter-free, I think you're gonna love this thing. The Husky stores neatly underneath all the dead space here in the rear seat and allows you to store all your stuff, whether it be your first aid kit, tools, jumper cables, cleaning supplies, whatever. Now guys, the Husky is vehicle specific because as you can see, this thing does fit perfectly here in our Super Crew, and more importantly, it's not gonna take away from any floor space for your rear seat passengers. Again, a very convenient product, a useful product that serves a purpose for not a lot of money. Now before I get under the hood and talk about some of the power improvements we did here, let's talk about this snap rest armrest cover. Again, not the flashiest gadget, but it does serve a purpose, and that purpose is making your drive more comfortable. In my experience, the factory armrest here is a little low for me. I'm a little tall at 6'1", so I'll end up actually throwing my arm on the windowsill here, which really isn't the most comfortable thing either. So SnapRest recognized this problem, came up with this little guy here, which does a great job. You can grab the SnapRest in a bunch of different colors to match a few different interiors. It's made from real Italian leather and loaded with a high density foam here, so it's gonna be very comfortable on long trips, at least far more comfortable than the hard plastic armrest or windowsill. The best part is, guys, very easy install here, right? Just simply snap it into place and you're good to go. All right, let's quickly touch on some of the performance stuff we did to this build. Now, this is a truck after all, I get that, but who doesn't want a little bit more performance, whether you're towing or you're just looking for a little bit more pep light to light? First up, we did the Airaid Junior kit. Now, this is gonna fall nicely in line with our budget plans here. And in Airaid's own words, it's gonna replace the two most restrictive parts of the factory intake system, the inlet tube and the cheap paper OE filter. In their place now, we have Airaid's rotomolded plastic intake tube, along with one of their signature filters, their SynthaFlow oiled filter. It's gonna offer a little bit more particulate protection than our cheap OE filter. This is a very simple combination. It's gonna cost you roughly half the price of most other complete aftermarket intake systems. And the best part is you don't need a tune to run it. However, since we had a tune on the schedule here or in the plans from the get-go, it's certainly not gonna hurt us there. As far as our tune, we went with a custom tune from the guys down at MPT or More Power Tuning. Again, this is a custom tune here. It's not some canned or preloaded tune, so you can expect a little bit more right out of the box in regards to performance. Yes, you might pay a little bit more for it up front, but in my opinion, it's gonna be worth it. One of the many things I like about the MPT tunes is the amount of options they give you. For instance, you have your economy, your towing, and your race tunes that you can choose from. And they also offer some pretty solid transmission tweaks as well, which in my experience have been very, very nice. Now the nice thing with these EcoBoosts here is that they really tend to wake up with a custom tune, and that's what we definitely witnessed on our dyno. Baseline run on our dyno jet gave us 312 horsepower and 389 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheels, pretty standard with these EcoBoost trucks. However, with the MPT and Airaid combination, the truck is now making 388 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. That's good for a peak gain of 76 horsepower over those baseline numbers and gains of as much as 92 horsepower, and get this guys, 113 pound-feet of torque underneath the curve. All right guys, obviously those numbers are pretty insane, right? So these EcoBoost trucks definitely wake up with the help of a custom tune. Now it's my turn to take this thing out on the road and see what it feels like. All right guys, so we're out in the 2014 F-150 here, the EcoBoost truck again with the budget-friendly build going on. And we got the lift in place, the MPT tune, the Airaid, some other stuff as well, all the lighting. But so far I'm just kind of putting around the truck here, getting it out of the shop, and right away I could tell that the throttle response with the MPT tune is just pretty crazy. Definitely for the better. I mean, it's much improved over the stock tune, definitely more responsive overall. And we saw this thing put down close to 500 foot-pounds of torque on the dyno, which is pretty incredible out of the little 3.5 EcoBoost. So should feel like a totally different animal. Now we're hitting a few bumps here so far with the small lift again, the Zone 2-inch suspension lift. We have the 34-inch Coopers on here now as well. Definitely a little bit more sidewall working for us. It's riding pretty good. It's a little firmer than stock, I would say, so far, even with the hydro shocks in place. But it's nothing uncomfortable or anything like that. It rides pretty nice. Tire's actually really quiet, believe it or not. One thing I did want to point out with the 2-inch Zone suspension lift kit here and these 34s, just doing a simple U-turn or a 3-point turn, no rubbing whatsoever, full lock both ways, not getting any weird rubbing. Actually taking some turns now. The truck feels pretty stable, I would say so, for being, you know, a couple inches higher all around now. Again, it definitely doesn't feel floaty. It doesn't feel like we're gonna tip over or anything like that. Granted, I'm not doing anything out of control. And we'll hammer on a little bit here. Oh man, this thing just keeps pulling. I love it. Keeps pulling. I feel like I can hear the turbo spool up a little bit more than before with the Airaid in place. Nothing crazy. Now, full disclosure, this truck actually has a resonator and muffler delete, so you are probably getting some exhaust noise as well. Which actually sounds really good, but man, I tell you, just quarter throttle in this thing, and it goes. That's one thing I really like too about the MPT tunes, the more power tuning. They do a great job not only with the power, but also with their transmission stuff. The truck downshifts a lot more now, which is great for me anyway. I don't know, some of you guys at home might not like that. But I feel like the MPT tune always puts you in the power band. With their economy tune also, they try to shift you into the higher gears faster just to get you, again, the best fuel economy possible. But that's not what we have on here right now. We definitely have their Performance Extreme or their PRX tune. Again, this thing made a boatload of power and torque. I am getting some wind noise though through the Raxiom 50-inch up top, and I guess that's to be expected when you're putting something up there. You know, it's nothing outrageous. I don't even have the radio on right now, obviously, so I can talk to you guys. So with the radio on and this truck howling, you probably wouldn't even notice it. I can't say it enough, guys. This snap rest arm cover, for being as small and inexpensive as it is, almost like a little gimmicky mod, it really makes a world of difference. Again, my arm is just perfect on this thing now. And being a taller guy, my seat or the armrest on the door is just a little low for my liking. I'd usually throw it up here even, especially with the window down in warmer months. But now, again, the snap rest really just fixes a common problem in my eyes. It does a great job too. And you know why it's real leather? Because you can smell it. Just leaving the red light here, you can feel the truck just wants to go. I mean, just the smallest amount of throttle input really makes this thing move a whole lot better than it did before. The truck just feels more responsive. Whew. This thing hauls, man. Wow. This thing definitely hauls. And it's a big truck. Full disclosure, I drive a 2.7 EcoBoost, and this thing with the MPT tune's making me rethink that decision right now. It feels really good. So guys, there you have it. My quick driving impression here of our budget build with our 2014 3.5 EcoBoost. We did some lighting, we did some performance. That lift, of course, definitely gave the truck a better stance overall. We just took care of some of the basics here with the F-150. We hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I had a blast working on this thing. But stay tuned, we got more builds coming your way. And for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.